Spring is in the air. It will arrive Thursday when we will have 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of night. The equinox, as it's called. Spring is a time of hope, and it is a time of transformation here in the Northern Hemisphere. Trees are forming buds. Tulips and daffodils and other bulbs are beginning to push through the soil. Our world is coming alive again after months of hibernation during the winter. When I was little, on a Saturday at this time of the year, I would help my grandfather put in his vegetable garden. We'd dig up the soil, turn it over, and we would plant a few seeds, peas and lettuce and radishes to start with. Seeds, it seemed to me, were miraculous. When I was a little boy, I didn't know how it happened, but those seeds, like the grain of wheat in our gospel, would in a few days spring to life. I didn't know that the seed would die and then bring about life. That's an apt metaphor, especially for Lent. Life coming out of death. Just as Jesus died on Good Friday and rose again on Easter Sunday. Jeremiah's prophecy in our first reading about the new covenant God offers can be taken as the interpretive key to all the readings on this fifth Sunday of Lent. This oracle carries a message of hope, forgiveness, and transformation. In a sense, it can be seen as a summary of our experience of Lent. The context for this promise is God's activity of bringing the people of Israel back from exile. Like a new exodus, but without the trials of the desert, God is reconstituting the people and establishing a deeper bond with them than they had ever known. What is new about the covenant, Jeremiah prophesies, is the intensity of relationship with God that comes through it. Prefiguring what Jesus would say about him coming to fulfill the law and not abolish it, Jeremiah announces that the new covenant will be written on the heart, not on stone. The people's understanding of God and their relationship of love will be such that no one will have need of a written law. Everything that should be done will be evident in the attitude and behavior of the people themselves. Obviously, this is an ideal, one that is very close to what Jesus preached. An important note in this is that God does not promise that the people will become faultless. Far from it. Although Jeremiah proclaims that everyone, from the least to the greatest, will know the Lord, that doesn't mean that they are all going to fulfill their call in every dimension. The people will not become sinless saints, but rather they will know who God is and what God is like. Thus, the oracle we hear finishes with the promise, I will forgive their evil doing and remember their sin no more. That is an ongoing promise. In an imperfect world, sin will be recognized for what it is, an aberration, an abnormal way of behaving, which will never become the world's permanent condition. The new covenant is one in which God is known above all else as the one whose great love offers continual forgiveness, thereby opening the way for ongoing conversion. That is the message of hope that is part of our journey in Lent. That is what leads to transformation for us. This is God's unilateral promise. The core of this new covenant has nothing to do with the people's worthiness or good behavior, but rather with God's unrelenting love and will to save them. The love that God showed by sending his Son to suffer and die for us. The story in our gospel seems to begin in a very strange way. Some Greeks came to celebrate Passover and told Philip that they wanted to see Jesus. Why Philip? All we know is that he had a Greek name, and he had once invited Nathanael to come and see Jesus earlier in John's Gospel. Philip told Andrew, and Andrew went to Jesus with the news. Although we hear nothing more of these Greeks, their request and the process that comes about as a result serve two purposes in the story. First, this confirms what the Pharisees had just said in John's Gospel. Look, the whole world has gone after him. Secondly, the complexity of the process of getting to Jesus recalled the difficulty with which the Jewish community accepted people labeled as foreigners. Theologically, the important point was that the Gentile world was seeking Jesus. The Greeks' desire to see Jesus became the occasion for Jesus to make the most important announcement in John's Gospel. The hour has come for the Son of Humanity to be glorified. Here we also get the only glimpse John gives us that Jesus struggled with the coming of his hour. At first, he simply taught his disciples what he thought about the coming of his hour, reinterpreting one of Isaiah's songs of the servant of God. He taught them that a grain of wheat must die to bear fruit, that whoever hates his life in this world will preserve it for eternal life, and most ominously for his disciples, where I am, there also will my servant be. He then told him how he felt. I am troubled now. This moment is John's alternative to the agony in Gethsemane in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Just as in the garden, Jesus chooses God's will over his own. He asks if he should call on God to rescue him from what is to come. But then, repeating that this is his hour, he speaks directly to God, Father, glorify your name. With that, just as happened at Jesus' baptism and transfiguration, a voice came from heaven saying, I have glorified it and will glorify it again. Then Jesus explains what his hour in God's glory mean. Now is the time of judgment on this world. Now is the ruler of this world will be driven out. Jesus remained faithful to his call. He would be lifted up on the cross and draw everyone to himself. His exaltation on the cross would attract the whole world into his sphere of freedom and love. The kind of death he would die was one that would reveal the new covenant and the ever-forgiving love of God. As we near the end of our Lenten journey, we accompany Jesus on his final journey in this world. We need to follow his example. He chose to be who he was sent to be, and so must we. We need to trust in God as Jesus did. We do this by taking up our crosses in life, carrying them, and being faithful.